as they go, they can. So we at least have some postdocs here now. But hi, everyone. Welcome to our immigration Q&A session with immigration lawyer Rachel Casseus. She's had a longstanding history of working with the BPDA to do these immigration Q&A sessions with us, and we really appreciate it. Her firm, Casseus Law, I think focuses primarily on postdocs and researchers, right, Rachel? And I think I read on your website, that you have 100% success rate on green cards and national interest waivers.
Yeah. Yes.
So that's Rachel's a tremendous support for postdocs in the Boston area. And so it's my pleasure to invite her here to talk to you all today. And so the format for today will be about, I think, a 15-ish minute presentation, and then it'll be open for questions. I'm recording for the presentation part, but I'll stop the recording once the questions start so that your questions won't end up on a recording. So, and with that, Rachel, go ahead and take it away, and thank you for being here with us.
Thank you so much, Zeke. It is my pleasure to join you all this afternoon. I want to first start off by thanking all of you for making it out today on a Thursday. Congratulations, you're almost finished with the week. As Zeke said, I have been working with the BPDA for many, many years in providing not only free talks, but also some blog posts. We look forward to really providing postdocs with as much information as possible in order to feel not only confident, but excited to go through the green card process. The process can be daunting. A lot of our clients will tell you that the letter drafting process really is the most difficult part of the whole process. But really, if you plan ahead, I think you can get through with minimal, feelings of fear. So that's really where an attorney comes in to help guide you and to really identify the pieces that will make for a successful case. So today I've put together a few slides. I don't want you to feel like you need to meet every criteria listed on the slide, because in the sense of there's no wrong way to eat a Reese's peanut butter cup, there's no wrong way to put together a green card case. And especially with some of the categories, you are allowed to really provide any information that you think or that your attorney thinks will make for a successful case. So our mission at Casseus Law is really to give you the best experience possible. It's not going to be fun. As I said, drafting letters aren't like going to an amusement park, but we try to make it so that you're only providing us with the relevant information that we need to finish your case. And this is where I will say that when you speak with an attorney, if you decide to work with one, really ask them how they are going to help you get through the process. We do also provide consultation services for clients who want to do their cases on their own. But with that in mind, when we work with a client, we really want to get you from zero to a green card. So that means that we'll never stop working for you. As Zeke did say, we do have a 100% green card approval rate, but there's an asterisk in that, right? We have lost cases before. We've lost EB-1As, but in our mission, and never stopping the work for our clients, we refile cases that aren't successful. We have refiled EB-1A cases for very strong clients who it wasn't their fault that immigration denied the case the first time around. But we are dedicated to making sure that if you do work with us, we will get you your green card. Our goal is also to ensure that clients are treated with dignity, respect, and care. This is so important in a busy world where people are sometimes treated like numbers. you want to make sure that you're working with someone who is going to be responsive to your needs, and working with a firm that is also paying their staff a living wage, I think, is also an important detail, which our firm does. So I'm attorney Rachel Casseus. I graduated from Dartmouth College. I went to law school at Suffolk University, and I specialize in national interest waivers, EB-1A and B green cards. We also do a limited amount of marriage-based green cards. And this is where attorney Sabine Casseus is brilliant in all aspects of life. She graduated high school at 16, went to Princeton University, and she specializes in EB-1A, NIW, EB-1B as well. We are both licensed to practice in all 50 states, and Sabine Casseus actually does all of our marriage-based cases. So we will not be really talking too much about marriage-based cases, only because they are straightforward in the sense that if you're married to a US citizen or a green card holder, there may be an option for you to obtain your permanent residence, also known as a green card, through the marriage-based process. But let's talk about the EB green card process, because it is a two-step process. A lot of people think that you apply for your national interest waiver or your EB-1A or B, and that automatically has you applying for a green card. And this is actually not the case. A lot of the time, people will file an I-140 and be concerned about maintaining their F1 student visa or their J1. But the good news about the I-140, which is the application that basically makes you eligible for the green card, that I-140 doesn't have immigrant intent attached to it. So what that means is that you can file the I-140 without jeopardizing or losing your F1, your O1, your J1, etc. The beauty of filing an I-140 on its own is that if some of you are F1 students and you are seeking to extend and go on to the F1 STEM OPT, you can actually continue that process without any issues to your I-140 and without issue to extending your F1 visa. So the second step of the process usually happens once someone has an approved I-140. So the I-140 can be in any category. It could be the national interest waiver, the EB-1A, which is really that Einstein visa. And I'll talk about the EB-1A in another slide. But once you have an I-140 approval, you would then need to check the visa bulletin to make sure a green card is available to you. So today, at the time of this recording, it is July 27th, 2023. Green cards are not available to individuals in the national interest waiver from any country. And the reason why it's important to understand this is that anyone applying for a green card today, thinking about applying for it, wouldn't be able to actually file a 485 until more green cards become available. So historically, the new fiscal year for green cards starts October 1st of the calendar year. So it is the hope of all immigration attorneys that the green cards become available on October 1st. However, it's not a given that new available visas will be granted on October 1st. And what I mean by granted is that you would be able to apply for a green card on October 1st if you have either a pending I-140 or an approved I-140. But let's get back to the concept of the second step. So I recommend that clients wait to apply for their green card once they have an approved I-140. And this is really important because having an approved I-140 is basically your Willy Wonka golden ticket. As long as you are not a criminal or someone who is planning on not maintaining their visa status, you are guaranteed a green card with an I-140 approval, as long as you make sure that you have all of the 45 required documents. So we'll talk about 45 required documents, but the most important documents would be your birth certificate, a valid, unexpired passport with at least 6 months of validity, and then all of your visas and past I-94 and travel information. So we're going to breeze through the EB-1A, EB-1B, and the national interest waiver as a route to getting you to a green card as a postdoc. So many of you would already be eligible for a national interest waiver on this call. It is a very generous category. The beauty of the national interest is that you don't need a job offer and you can actually self-petition. You can also apply while on any status. So a lot of our clients will use the NIW during their postdoc years just to have a ability to get a green card at a later date. There is an option to premium process a national interest waiver. It is an extra $2,500 that you would pay to the Department of Homeland Security. And that payment is basically a contract with US immigration that they will process your case in 45 days or less. So the national interest requires you to either have an advanced degree or exceptional ability. Most of our postdoc clients are postdocs, so you have the advanced degree. There's no need to show exceptional ability, although it's pretty much implied in your case that you have exceptional ability based on the documents that you're providing. So we work with clients to highlight all of their peer review. What I really love about the national interest waiver is that it is US focused. So we help clients explain how grants, and US grants in particular, to their lab, how NIH funding is proof of the national interest of your work. And even if the grant is not in your name, you can still use it as evidence of the national interest of your work. So once you show an advanced degree, you also need to show that you meet the 3 factors to gain national interest waiver approval. So the first would be that your work has substantial merit and national importance. Most every STEM field has substantial merit and national importance, so that's pretty easy to prove. The second prong of being well positioned to advance the work, the proposed endeavor, is also implied in many of you having an advanced degree, but then you would also show evidence of your past work as proof of your being well positioned to continue innovating in the field. The third prong really used to be the place where people would get denials, not with our firm, but with other firms. People would always complain, attorneys would say to me, like, how are you proving number 3? It's so vague. So really, how do you prove that it's beneficial to the US to waive the job offer? You prove it by showing that you are, unique, that you are someone who has publications showing your work, that other people are implementing your work in some way or citing your work. You prove the fact that even if there are other people in your field, you still provide a benefit to innovating or to pushing your field forward. And that's really where you get to say anything you want to the immigration service. And that's back to there's no wrong way to do this. And Attorney Casseus, my sister Sabine, and I really love the fact that we get to create a narrative and craft a story to best fit the work that you all are doing. And so this is where you do want to give yourself time to put together a case. I always say, and I think everyone can agree on this, it's sort of like Murphy's Law. When you plan and you bring an umbrella, it doesn't rain. when you don't bring your umbrella, you're in a downpour. So we like to take that same philosophy to apply it to the practice of putting a case together. You want to be in a place where you're ready for the green card, but maybe being ready means the plan is to get your green card in 2 years. So really think about what you are, where you are in your timeline, and then, double the time that you think it would take to get a green card. So for most people, they will give themselves a year and a half to 2 years just to make sure that they can put together a case, but then also give immigration time to review the case. So there was a very interesting guidance that came out on January 21st, 2022. And USCIS, in a memo, basically said that they're willing to consider anyone who has an advanced degree in a STEM field as, a national interest waiver candidate. And so a lot of attorneys have sort of made this one of their main arguments, that because of this guidance, now, it should be easier to get a green card. And in practice, I think, we are seeing more approvals, but then we are seeing a lot of requests for evidence. So I wouldn't take this guidance as, proof that all you need is a STEM degree, because that's not the case. So I always want to highlight to people that immigration will sometimes give you a carrot, but not always, grant the approval based on their guidances. So these are general pieces of evidence that you can provide with your national interest waiver case. These are not strict requirements. We've had many clients obtain national interest waivers with only 5 years of experience in their field. Immigration does list 10 years of full-time experience, but in our experience, that's not necessary that any of you have 10 years of experience in the field. You can count the 6 years or 5 years that you were in a PhD plus time potentially in a master's to get you to more years of full-time experience. I, again, don't think it's necessary to have published papers to gain a national interest waiver. We've actually helped clients with no publications obtain national interest waivers. But if you are in a field that, it's common to have published, and I think a lot of the life science fields, this is the case, then you probably will want publications. But this is where we provide a credential evaluation to help determine if you are eligible for a green card. So I wouldn't be too stressed out right now about how many publications or citations you have. Recognition of your achievement by peers or government entities. A lot of people prove this through 6 letters of recommendation from experts in their field. High salary is very rare. I think we've only had about a handful of clients proving that their salary is 2x of what a salary would be in their field. So this is not a requirement, but it's great if you are getting, 150K and other people in your lab or other people in your field are getting 70K. You could show that as high salary. Membership in professional organizations. I always want to just briefly talk about this because I don't want to see anyone paying $50 to join IEEE. I'm sure it's much more expensive than that right now, just for the purposes of obtaining a green card. You really want to watch out for this because a paid membership is not what immigration is looking for. You want to show membership in a professional organization because of your expertise. So being asked to join an editorial board would be more so evidence of membership in a professional organization, or even being inducted into a society. history of exceptional achievement in your field is something that all of you can provide just by virtue of having a dissertation. A lot of people don't recognize this, but only 1% of the population actually has an advanced PhD degree. So that is really the basis of where you can use your past work to show, hey, I'm in the 1%. So, okay. We're going on to the next slide, if this will let me. Okay, so we always want to encourage clients to update your CV. Immigration wants to see everything that you've done that's related to your fields. Having a PDF of your master's, your PhD diploma would be something that I would recommend all of you to do if you're interested in starting the green card process. The letters of recommendation, you can start asking people right now to say, hey, I'm thinking of applying for a green card. Would you be willing to sign one for me once I'm ready? And a lot of people don't recognize that you want to lean on people that you already have a close relationship with. So even though the majority of your letters should come from people who haven't worked with you directly, you can ask your current PI or your past PI if they have connections that would be willing to sign a letter for you. So authorship in peer-reviewed journals is something that we already talked about, but it's sort of the case for all of you that it's implied that you're going to publish and continue publishing. So immigration just wants to see that past work. Review for journals, conference committees, and scientific boards are something that you can ask editors to send you reviews. It's not required that you are sought out. And a lot of people might feel uncomfortable doing this, but you, as an expert, have the right to perform the review without feeling that, this may seem improper because you weren't asked. Media coverage about your work really is something that is hard to get. And as attorneys, we never want to encourage anyone to go try to create their own media. But if there are articles already written about your work or even about your lab, you can claim that work if you were working on the project, even if you weren't listed by name in the media. So we're going to talk about the EB-1A very briefly. As I said, this is the Einstein visa. So if the national interest waiver was the equivalent of walking 50 miles, I would say the EB-1 is like climbing Everest. And this is a joke, obviously, but immigration really wants you to be amongst the top expert in your field. I really caution postdocs against applying for the EB-1A, especially if you can't show proof that people are already implementing your work. So what does implementation mean? Implementation means something like this. I'll give you an example. We have a client who was able to figure out a formula to help Novartis make a blockbuster drug that then went on to make Novartis $500 million. That was a clear EB-1A. We also have another client who was the only person in her cohort lab group to get over $1 million in her own independent funding to do really intricate work on planetary systems. So you want like a big achievement. A lot of times we will do an EB-1A for a client if we can show that they were influential in helping their PI get a lot of funding. That has been a winning argument, but I never want to present someone with an EB-1A if they don't have sort of like an aha moment that immigration can say, yes, like this is work, or this is work that is being funded and is, a game changer for the field. So with the EB1A, there is no employer sponsor needed. You must satisfy 3 out of 10 conditions. And these slides will be provided to you after the call, so you all can look through them. But the major 3 that we see a lot of clients having success in would be the published work in a journal, original scientific scholarly contributions, like the 500 million Novartis drug. Or, for example, we had another client who actually had no citations, but he was able to build an application for nursing homes to track patients after surgery. And this was a telemedicine app that was then used in about 10 nursing homes in Massachusetts, and was really a way to help, ensure the health and safety of the patients. And so that was a contribution that immigration recognized, and this client was able to obtain his EB1A with no citations. And then the third that we're finding clients use as an EB1A, category of the 3 out of 10 would be the lead role in an organization with distinguished reputation. So a lead role doesn't mean that you're running the organization. It could mean that you have a lead role on a project. The EB1B is sort of the darling of the EB1 of these green card categories. And the reason why I'm smiling is because I love this category a lot, as does Sabine. And a lot of immigration attorneys love it too, because unlike the EB1A, you're not climbing Everest, you're not walking 50 miles like the national interest waiver, but you are, sort of guaranteed a green card if you're doing research and you have a researcher role. You cannot self-petition though, and this is the heartbreaking news for a lot of you. Most of you are not in a position where your institute is going to file for you, because you need to prove that this is indefinite employment. And that is hard for a postdoc. But we have been successful in working with institutes and their postdocs to say that even 1 year of funding in the sort of ongoing relationship with the lab can be considered as indefinite employment, because the institute wants to keep you in your job doing great research. So there is a requirement of 3 years of experience in the field, but most of you will already meet this by having done 6 years in a doctoral program. There are similar supporting evidence as the EB1A, but here you only need to meet 2 out of 6. Then you also need to prove that your institute has at least 3 full-time researchers. So the 2 out of 6 that most of our clients are meeting would be the authorship of scholarly books or articles, and then the original scientific research contributions. So I want to present you with some real live approved cases. Dr. An worked with us at the time. He was a research assistant professor at the University of Texas Health Center. He had 61 citations at the time of filing in an MD degree, and he was able to obtain his national interest waiver. At the time of filing his case, he had an H-1B, and he was working on providing therapies for treating and preventing strokes. Our next approved real live client, Dr. Koseoglu, she had 120 citations at the time of filing, also had an H-1B, and was able to work with Beth Israel to have them sponsor her for the EB-1B, which is the employer-sponsored green card. The thing about the EB-1B is that you will need to stay at the institute all the way up until the green card is granted. If you were to leave, it would actually terminate the case if you didn't have your green card at the time that you left. So this can be something that clients should know about, because with the long processing times and with
I have a
green card
question.
backlogged, yes.
Uh,
Anthony,
yeah, sorry to interrupt. So you say, suppose you are in a company.
we perfect. So back to the slides. Our another national interest approved client was Dr. Jean. She had 134 citations at the time of filing, and she was working on traumatic brain injury and using novel computational tools to simulate the behavior of human tissues, and was able to obtain her national interest waiver green card based on that work. So what are the next steps? All of you today, if you're interested in applying for a green card, can update your resume, obtain copies of translations of documents that are not in English. This is critical because USCIS will only review case documents that are in English. You don't have to pay a company to do the translations for you. You can do the translation yourself and then have a friend sign a translation certification. Esteban, I see your question. I'm gonna do one more minute of slides and then we'll get to your question. So we all want you to create a Google Scholar account if you have publications and citations. This is an easy way for an officer to see that you have done work in the field and that others have cited your work. This is something that we haven't seen a lot of. It was more during the Trump years where immigration officers were checking people's social media accounts. But that is to say, you do want to make sure that there is nothing in your social media that would be a cause for a permanent residence denial. So being a member of a communist society is actually something that would put you out of the running for getting a green card. There are those questions that all of you check when you applied for your visa. So a lot of those questions are the same. Like, are you going to keep someone from practicing their religion, or have you participated in a military group? So you really want to make sure that, you know, all of your accounts are, you know, having you look like the upstanding people that you are. Obtaining copies of your peer review would just be a good idea to have already in a PDF format. So Cassius Law does provide free green card credential reviews, and we've provided this link for you all today. I'm happy to let all of you know if you are eligible for a green card and potentially what type of green card. And I thank you all for taking the time out to sit through this presentation. And then you can look through the rest of these slides to make sure that you have the correct birth certificate. And there's a website to check that you have the right documents. So on to the Q&A.
Thank you very much for the presentation.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rachel. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now. I did pause it during that question period we had in the middle, so that didn't end up in the recording. So yeah, we have some time for questions. Thank you.